Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Surtur from Slytherin and we're back with another Twitch stream this week, and today we're going to give you a little sneak preview, as it were, of Flashpoint Campaigns Red Storm, or Flashpoint Campaigns Germany Reforged. Germany Reforged is a remake, you might say, of Flashpoint Germany, which was made by the same developers a good number of years ago. Very popular game at the time, and what they have done now is, because of popular demand, they've worked very hard to get all these scenarios of the Flashpoint Germany up to the new engine of Flashpoint Campaigns, the award-winning engine of Flashpoint Campaigns Red Storm, I should say, which is loved definitely by many people. So having these extra scenarios, these old-school scenarios that many people loved and that are extremely interesting and pose a good number of challenges, all up to the new engine, is a great way to experience them once again, or for the first time if like me, you haven't actually been introduced to the previous game before. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to give you an overview of the game, and or the expansion, I should say, and we're going to give you a bit of a tutorial, if you will, on how to play the game. So we're here in the main menu of Flashpoint Campaigns Red Storm, and I should say that we are playing the beta version of Flashpoint Campaigns Germany Reforged. So that is version 2.0.10 beta. The reason for this is, of course, the game isn't out yet, so we are having an early view, as it were. What that also means is that things you might see here might still change, whether it's balancing, whether it's some bugs that might pop up. They'll be fixed before release, obviously. So please bear with me if anything should go wrong, or anything should stand out. So we're going to play a single scenario. So you hit scenario campaign, you get to choose what type of game you want here. We're going to do a single scenario tonight, and we're going to play against the AI, and we'll be playing as NATO. So most scenarios can be played from both sides, or all scenarios, I should say, can play from both sides. They're not always balanced for both sides, but they can definitely be played from both sides. So you can play as NATO, which would indicate either US, Britain, West Germany, etc., or Warsaw Pact. So we're going to be playing NATO, and we're going to hit proceed, and we're going to go into the list of scenarios here. And hi there, Self-Searcher, glad you could join us. So here we have the full list. This is actually a list of the original game, and you can see that's already a great list of scenarios we got there. So we're going to have a look at what Flashpoint Campaigns Germany Reforged actually will bring to the table. So we got the full list of scenarios here. They're split up between the alternate scenarios and the extra scenarios. So it's not just updating the older content to the new engine. There are actually some completely new scenarios, including some huge maps with huge amount of units. So if you played Red Storm and you thought, I want to have bigger maps, more units, then that's definitely something you will get here. If you're like me, however, you prefer the smaller scenarios, and there are plenty of them as well. So we can see the full list of Germany Reforged scenarios come with. We can see the number of the scenario, we got the name of the scenario, and at the end we got the tag for which side it is balanced. So this one's balanced to play against the Soviet AI, for example, whereas this one would be balanced to play against the NATO AI, and this one would be head-to-head, which is mainly balanced for multiplayer. Exactly like Captain Darwin's saying in the chat here. So we are going to be playing a scenario called Soviet Tank Rush, and we're going to play it against the we're going to play it as NATO, so we want against Soviet AI. So the scenario is designed to be played on NATO side, and that's what we're going doing. I am not sure, Pat Garrett. The audio seems all fine on my end. Is anyone else having an issue? If not, please try refreshing a different browser, perhaps, if that's not working either. It is unusual, though, to have the audio stuttering while the video is fine. Thanks for the feedback, guys. So we got a small scenario briefing here. We're on May the 7th, 1989. So this is a hypothetical World War III game, obviously. This is day one of the war, and the Soviets will attempt the early seizure of the town of Rensenbach, at the intersection of two major autobahns or highways, freeways, on the route from Berlin to Hamburg. It was inevitable that NATO would deploy here to meet them, and that's what we're going to do. And as it says here, this scenario is a conversion from the original Flashpoint Germany scenario of the same name. So we're going to hit proceed, and here we get to choose our options, and I'm going to walk you through them one by one because there are quite a couple of them. So the first one essentially disables fog of war. So we don't want that. We want to keep fog of war. So we're going to keep those off. Emergency resupply is automatic. That means that if you're you got the tooltip explaining this as well, but if you run out of supply, they'll automatically get a small percentage of ammo back and keep fighting. Some spares everywhere. I like to play to keep these on while playing, just to keep them fighting it an extra bit longer, pushing them for that extra bit. If you go full hardcore, obviously you would turn it off. Hi there, VRN. Glad to see you again. Welcome to the stream. We got limited staff rule is not in effect. We're going to keep this in effect, so we're going to not turn this on. What this means is that sometimes, because due to the electronic warfare hindrance, there is actually a limit to how many orders you can give in a specific turn. So that's actually one of the features of the game, that sometimes during a turn you might only be able to order 3, 5, or 7 units about, and that is due to the electronic warfare interference. So you have to really prioritize which orders you give. So we're going to keep this on for the bit of extra challenge. I do like to allow the some fire staff support. So that means that other HQs can actually plan strike and execute artillery strikes and airstrikes on their own initiative. Do we want that? Now let's try and do it all ourselves. Do we want to allow line of sight checks? Yes, we do want to allow those. And do we want to allow browsing of spotted enemy units? No, let's just keep it simple here. It would be good to show off some of the enemy units, I suppose. So let's turn it on. And again, you can tweak this for every scenario, and that will allow you to replay similar scenarios in completely different ways, because especially like the limited staff rule has a great impact on how the game plays and the balance between the parties. So having done that, we're going to hit proceed, and we get to see our Tactical Operations Center with the scenario description, as we've read before. We got the player mission briefing as well. So this is the briefing that's specifically for our side, and the Soviets have broken through and are moving west toward Rensenbach. Elements of the 7th Guard Division have been identified and moving through Norddorf and Schwandorf. Enemy intention appears to be established a bridgehead across Rensen River at Rensenbach. We got great visibility, 5,000 meters, so that's good. Hopefully that will continue. At least that's the prediction. It doesn't actually have to come through. Like in real life, weather predictions aren't always 100% accurate. There's a 20% chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. So that can be important, especially when you deal with air assets as in fire support. So we got the Royal Artillery element. And aviation support in the form of Harriers will be on call to provide assistance sometime after 10. So we got these sometime after 10. We got some Harriers, and again, these will be dependent on the weather, on how well we can actually use them. So then we get to see our force rest, and this is basically just a huge list of all the troops we have at our disposal. We can see we have a good number of challengers, and they are going to be our backbone for this game. We got some other guys in there, and some artillery support as well. So some on-map artillery, some off-map artillery. But overall, we got a pretty elite force here, albeit a bit small and a bit lacking in infantry. So we won't go past report and closing claims and staff summary report just now, as there's not a whole lot to do. Let's have a look at the battlefield. So we're in deployment mode over here. and I'm going to zoom out a bit so you can see the whole map in one go. You can see it's not one of the biggest maps out there. There are definitely a lot bigger ones. You might actually recognize it from Flashpoint Germany if you played that one. So we got the big river over here, the Rensen River, and we have the enemy coming from Norddorf and Schwandorf. So the blue areas are deployment mode, and we got victory locations here, here, and here, and these are the locations that we need to keep. So we need essentially to keep the enemy on the other side of the river. So since we got a good number of viewers over here, I'd like to hear from you. What kind of deployment would you prefer? Should I put all my troops behind the river, or should I deploy some of my troops, some of my tanks perhaps, or some of the recce units on the north side of the river? And like Captain Darwin is saying here, Flashpoint Campigns Germany Reforged is not standalone. It requires Flashpoint Campigns Red Storm. For those who don't know, Captain Darwin is Jim Snyder, who is one of the main developers on Flashpoint Campaign series. So he's the guy to ask any questions you might have. He's the guy that will point out all my tactical and strategical errors, as well as any wrong information I might be giving here. So there are a couple of approaches we could take here. So first we need to so we can use actually the plateaus and the heights over here to try and engage the enemy on greater distance and weaken them before they go into the town. The other approach is to dig in the town and go for more of a slugfest. Both have their pros and cons. We got some people saying get your recce across the river, or one of the things we could be doing that might be interesting is to see if we can deploy our the bulk of our armor on the hill over here. So that way they would be looking out on the town, on the crossing, and might engage the enemy from there. That would be one option. I am not expecting a greater, or I'm expecting the enemy will have the greater force. The thing is that generally, with the challengers, they do a good job against the 80s in when they have enough range between them, because they generally have a bit higher accuracy, especially when weather and when smoke, etc., are interfering. So getting them close up against the 80s, they will actually lose one-on-one. And obviously I don't have any infantry, and infantry would be great to just dig in the town. So we might try it from the hill. The other option you could do is to have them deployed over here and try and engage the enemy from the other side as they come through on the road. So one thing I will do, I will deploy my recce actually in the town just to have something there to slow down the enemy, and I will deploy them facing facing the enemy side of the river, so they'll be able to spot the enemy. As you can see from the S, and I will go into full detail on the counters in a second, but you can see in the bottom right an S that indicates the screening mode they're in, which means that they won't try and hold this hex at any cost. They will actually pull out if they fear danger. They're trying to stay alive here, and I'm quite happy with that. I don't expect them to hold this ridge. I just want to see what the enemy's up to. So the other thing I will do is I will move my main HQ, which is actually myself in it, south to safety, as well as the artillery. And one of the great things you can do in deployment 1, you can actually give your initial orders. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click my artillery, and I'm already going to order a barrage because I want to deploy some mines on the other side of the river. I know that the enemy will be coming there, and deploying mines there will be effective. Perhaps not actually in dealing casualties to the enemies, but at the very least it will slow them down, because anyone entering a minefield will watch their step very carefully. So let's move down our armored units and deploy them on all on the same side of the river. It's a bit of a tricky approach, because you don't have the advantage of being able to flank the enemy On the other hand, this hill might be a decent spot, especially in these forested areas, because as you can see, if you hover over in hex, you actually get more information on the hex. So we can see that this is a level 4 elevation hex, and it has a cover rating of 90%. So if I can be dug in there, I should be able to be fairly resistant to the enemy and shoot them as they try and cross the bridge. So let's deploy them over here. So I can only deploy in the blue squares, in case you were wondering. So that's why I'm not positioning them precisely on the hex. What's the cover rating here? 80%. That's still very good. So I'm going to have a deliberate move. And I'm already giving my first orders for when the match actually start. So if you're completely unfamiliar with Flashpoint campaigns in general, this is actually a we go turn-based strategy game. So both or simultaneous turn-based is also what's been called. So both parties move at the same time. The other thing is that it's very much asynchronous. So that essentially means that the time between orders for the different sides is different depending on their level of organization, their readiness, the state of their HQs, etc. And that's actually dynamic. So during a turn, if I hit the C3 tab over here, we can see that every 21 minutes our command cycle is 21 minutes, so every 21 minutes we can issue new orders, whereas for the enemy is every 31 minutes. And this will change as the battle progresses. And we'll have our HQ. We probably want to move it somewhere safe. Not exactly where I want it. I wanted to screen. Just keep it safe. The other thing we want to have an eye on is the fire support. So this lists our artillery. And reinforcements and withdrawals. We can see that there's a number of reinforcements coming in over time. A good number of artillery. And some armor. So having given our initial orders and having set our deployment, let's kick off. Let's start, and the first 21 minutes will kick off. So let's do that. And let me know how the sound for you is, guys. If it's any better, if the volume's proper, etc. I'll see if I can adjust anything if needed. So we see the enemy tanks coming in. Let's pause real quick and actually send a bit of a delay there. So the AI won't move as fast, so we can better track what they're doing. So we can see the enemy, we can see our units already backing down in the face of a large amount of enemy tanks. What type of things are they? They're T-ATUs. We can see our own subunits here. Double click brings you to the subunit inspector, and we can actually inspect some of the enemy units. So we got the T-ADU and the T-ADU-M, which is actually the stronger variant, and why it has the AT-11. So it has a bit of an extra, packs an extra punch. So we got T-ATU-M, and this is a tank worth 101 victory points, so actually killing it is a great achievement. So that's something we should definitely be fearful of. So the first 21 minutes have passed. It passed very quickly because fairly little has happened, no combat, the enemy is just moving up. We deployed our mines over here, but unfortunately we're now out of minelet ammunition, so we can no longer do that. Let's see if we can get some barrages up on the likely routes of approach for the enemy. 2, 3. Hopefully as they come through it, we'll start barraging them. We also got some special ammunition. I want to keep that in reserve though, when they are bogged down in the minefield. How many meters is a hex considered? One hex is considered 500 meters, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, 500 meters per hex. Let's start again. don't have any other units to order around, so I'm just gonna have them continue. We could see the enemy creeping up, coming in raids. The blue lines indicate us firing on the enemy. Red lines would indicate enemy firing on us, which is obviously the thing we hope not to see a whole lot. So we did a strike, some neutralizing fire. It doesn't actually inflict any casualties, but of course it might lower their readiness, and readiness is an indication of the general state a unit is in. So by taking prolonged fire, troops would tire out, etc. That would lower their readiness and their ability to fight, to shoot accurately, etc. So here we're exchanging fire on the enemy on the approach to the bridge. So our units are dug in, although they're not inflicting a whole lot of casualties amongst on the enemy. And one of our artillery giving another fire order and actually misses. But now we have the artillery caught in our minefield, and it takes at least they lose at least 2 tanks to the mines, and we have our British Harrier flight just arrived, so that's 2 Harriers that we can call on if needed. More fire is exchanged with the enemy, as most of our tanks are in place. But again, few casualties, and the enemy launches an ATGM, an anti-tank guided missile, killing one of our challengers. And that's what the difference between the T-80M and the T-80, and they are very dangerous. And as you can see, this is pretty much a bit of a more hands-off game, if you will, than most other games. You're not pushing the counters individually. You're giving the orders, and the counters, the units will interpret these orders the best they can, and they don't like to be ordered into their own death. They will actually try and refuse that. They might actually abandon their position if they can't be held, or if they are under prolonged artillery fire, etc. So units, you don't have to babysit them. They think for themselves. They judge for themselves which units to attack. So they might choose positions themselves if needed, and you're there to give more of the overall commands, if you will. And the other thing is that, of course, because these units think for themselves, it does a very good job at simulating the command, the way a commander would actually command his troops on the battlefield, in the sense that units want a bit of freedom to move around to do what they think is best, and at the same time, so much happening at the same time during one of these battles, obviously, that as a commander it would be impossible in real time to manage all these minor aspects. So you're doing what a commander in the field would do. So more fire is exchanged. We actually lost one of our recce units, but so far the enemy is taking a bit more of a pounding. But the thing I'm afraid of is the sheer amount of fresh troops they got, plus the just 2 challengers destroyed by their ATGMs. So far, we are getting slightly better exchanges, but it's not enough to actually compensate for the sheer difference in power between our guys. And unfortunately, our own ATGMs are not hitting their targets. Our challenges aren't equipped with ATGMs, so they only have their cannon to shoot. One thing you can see down here, and we're gonna focus on that in a bit. We got still 5 minutes until our turn. We'll look a bit into what the counter information actually gives, so it will help you read the battlefield a bit more. And our another Scorpion goes down. We can see more troops just creeping up. I don't know what's behind here. I don't have a line of sight there, so there might be a whole lot more coming. I'm not sure. So far, it seems not many have actually crossed yet, so that's definitely a good thing. I might need to get my recce units out of there, but again, I want to delay them here as much as possible because these are the victory locations. If I can delay them here, I might have some guys having them present themselves as targets as long as possible for my challengers. And even more important perhaps for my artillery. So if we scroll down here, that was what I wanted to focus on before. Let's zoom in a bit. We got our battery, and it's actually moving. Now, I haven't given it a move order, but it started moving on its own. The reason is, of course, that when shooting, when doing artillery missions, there's a great chance of actually getting hit by counter barrages or enemy artillery, focusing on where your artillery is, trying to find that out based on the vibrations of where the artillery is shooting from, or any other thing that they might pick up on, and actually target the your artillery. So that's why after a mission, artillery is inclined to actually move about. That will keep them relatively safe. So now we got the enemy closing in here, and that's not very good. And artillery wants to move about, but I don't want my artillery to move because I want to give it an order. So I'm gonna tell it to stay for now. It's a bit of a risk, but I want to drop my ICM's improved conventional munitions on the enemy that's trying to cross the bridge and take out as many as possible of them. That's something I'm suffering from as well, Pat Garrett. There's too many games out there that I want to be playing a whole lot more than I am doing right now, and this is definitely one of them. So far, these challengers are getting a beating, so I want to move them out. And I'm going to move this guy to a bit more safety as well, but keep it in a screen position for now, so it can use its own intelligence to move about should it be needed. So we should have, we actually have our Harrier now. The thing is, I don't know if they have any anti-air support here. I'm a bit hesitant to send out my my Harriers until I know more of them. One of the reasons being that losing a Harrier, that losing a Harrier cost me 73 victory points. So there we go. Let's hit start again. And we process the next couple of turns, and more fire being engaged. And we're just now waiting for our fire mission with the ICMs to launch on the enemy that's trying to cross the bridge. We did inflict some casualties, but they're not on the enemy T-80s. They're on some of their BMPs. Yes, it's definitely possible to blow up bridges. In this case, however, it generally takes a bit of time, and the enemy was so quickly upon us that trying to destroy the bridges is not the way to go. It can definitely be done, and new bridges can be erected as well. So we are taking out more of the T-80s. Let's see. So what do we have? We got some off-map artillery, I think. So that's definitely a good thing. Nope, unfortunately not Blood. I would definitely have loved some more, but perhaps our overlap artillery has some in stock, so we can use. Meanwhile, the enemy is definitely doing a good job in their exchanges, in the sense that they almost get a 1-for-1, in which is obviously terrible for me. And there we go, an ICM fire mission. And it's not dealing any casualty. That is very unfortunate. I was definitely hoping to take out a couple of T-80s there. And like Captain Darwin is saying here, smoke would be the way to go now to get a bit of cover there for my units. Fortunately, I have to wait another 15 minutes before I can do anything. It's a very good suggestion there, Stimpack. Mining the bridge directly might definitely be the better way to go here. So we just got in a whole bunch of reinforcements, and they're deployed to hold part of the mountain ridge that we were already deployed on. And we can immediately see that because of their location, they have a further line of sight down the enemy, so we can see a whole bunch more of the enemy. But they are, and while they are in a good position there, they are stacked, which means they're very vulnerable to enemy artillery. And we can see that our HQ is just moving about as well, and that's because also they can be targeted by enemy artillery, especially if the enemy picks up the location of the HQ based on radio transmissions that have been picked up. This is a feature that is in the game, so sometimes you will pick up these frequencies from the enemy as well, and you will actually have an estimate on where the enemy HQ might be, and you can then take them out. Let's have a look at our C3 tab here. We can see our order delay is not changed a lot, but the enemies they actually lost a good bit of readiness, making their order delay 36 minutes rather than 31. So at least we're doing something right here. That's definitely true, Zakblad. You can actually learn to play the game before you have to understand what is all happening, because the units have their own intelligence, and because it's made in such a way that common sense techniques, like the proper real world battle strategies and tactics, actually work out. Unfortunately, I'm not very good at these real world battle strategies and tactics, and that's what's showing here. So the enemy is coming in, and we do see a lot of kill indicators over here. So again, we are inflicting a good number of casualties on the enemies, just not the T-80s that we really want to take out. And like Jim is saying here, I mean, for the next version of the game, they're further looking into this command and control system. And improving it further, and this is all based on done based on community feedback. So if you guys have any ideas, anything that thinks that would definitely help and make this a better game, the developers like Captain Darwin here are very open to it, and well, Pet Garrett, the Paras, I almost managed to forget about those. They stopped returning in my dreams a couple of months ago, but now, thanks for bringing it up again. Those poor paratroopers. That was when I did a stream of war in the west doing an amphibious invasion of Sicily, dropping my paratroopers behind enemy lines, and they just got completely wiped out. I think it was about 2,500 men that just got lost. We got some of the flyboys available. I'm just not sure what the enemy has when it comes to AA. So if they have proper anti-air defenses, sending in the Harriers would not be the best thing to do. I do have a good number of off-map artillery coming in slowly, so I will be able to use them in the following round. We can see that the enemy artillery is actually pounding us quite hard, so I really need to spread out there. In the Netherlands invasion, I used the paratroopers as well. Yeah, I recall that. To be fair, historically, the paratroopers in the Netherlands that landed there, the German ones in 1940, didn't do too great a job either. But one of the most important things is that even if you're not... let's see, no in-game sound. That might actually... Hang on for 1 second, guys. There we go. That should do the trick. If it's too loud now, let me know. I'll adjust it. Sounds fairly loud to me at the moment. The sounds are actually quite useful in game, as you can actually hear which type of weapon is being fired. We lost one of our HQs. So we can hear cannon fire going about. And very few casualties, and actually the amount of casualties might actually go down when the readiness of the troops fighting where it goes down, so they get tired, less accurate. And I think I just spotted some enemy surface or missile carriers over there. So yeah, best not send in the Harriers yet until we find a way to take these out, or at least wear them down a bit. One of the other things this game simulates very well is actually how difficult it is to disengage. In a lot of games you can just select the troops and send them back and they will automatically do it. Here it's not so easy. And disengaging from combat requires very good planning. Another Challenger goes down to enemy artillery fire this time, and we don't know what's actually coming in here. We don't have a vision on the bridge itself, which is what's one of the problematic things. So we don't know who's actually managed to get into the town yet. And battlefield conditions have changed, so one of the things we have here is dynamic weather. So we had very good weather before, but now we got some light rain, and our max visibility is down to 2,000 meters, or 4 hexes. And we can see to the right we have a rough indication of the weather. So we are in daylight, we have some light rain, and visual is 2,000 meters. Yeah, RTing the SAMs would definitely be the way to go. The thing is, I'm not entirely sure which hacks precisely they are. So here we go. So we got a bit less visual. We got some good fire support now, though. So we can do a barrage. We can do some smoke screens to prevent the enemy from seeing us, perhaps. Or do we want to directly just hit them as hard as possible here with some neutralizing fire? Barrage. Let's order one guy to counter battery fire, because the enemy is doing quite a bit of damage here, and let's have our heavy artillery here deploy some mines in the town. Again, I'm expecting them to come in any moment. I can stack up the mines if I want. Just behind the bridge, perhaps. If we can get them stuck there, we might RT them again. And that's another thing, you can move these waypoints as we're about. So the entry and exit points, let's do that. So let's do one on the entry point again, and let's have two on the exit points. That should slow them down a bit. The thing is, I'm not sure if it actually has enough ammunition to deploy 3 minelet barrages, so we'll have to see. The other thing is I need to get this HQ out of here. We know this is an HQ because, and I promised to do this before, but we're now going to look in detail at a counter. So the counter has a good number of information on it. We got the silhouette saying the type of unit it is, or the main type of unit. We have the, actually I don't need to get this out of the way, the ferret is already done for. We have the 2 indicating the amount of runners, or the amount of active units within this unit. Or within this counter, so we got 2 subunits here that are still active. This was listed number 3 when the ferret was still operational. We got the T indicating the main method of transport, so this is a tracked unit, and we got the S indicating its current orders. In this case, we are of course in screening orders, so that's where the S is for. Whereas the H here, for example, would be holding, blowing and building bridges. We get the E of engineering. Then to the top right, we got the blue icon indicating to which group this unit belongs. So that's a good way to keep them close to their HQs. And keeping your units close to HQs is very important to minimize the delays between actually giving orders and executing them, as well as getting a good and efficient command cycle. Let's see, over here we got our basic overview, and we can give 7 orders this turn. We can't give any more due to electronic warfare interference. So I don't want these guys stacked, so I'm going to move one of the challengers out and about closer toward the enemy perhaps, so we get a wider line of fire. I don't want these guys stacked either. So let's move them out. Spread out a bit and keep the fire on the enemy. I'm going to zoom out again, if you guys don't mind. And again, I'm not really going to use the Harriers right now, but I do have them over here. So let's continue and hope for better weather. Oh, nice, T80 down. And we're dropping our minelets. And the minefield is directly actually taking some casualties. So thanks, Ekblad, for that advice. It's definitely worth it. Over 5 T80s out there now. Well, you can always see which are the actual killing hexes, which hexes we have a good line of fire on. And now the enemy is into town here, and they're actively moving forward. And of course our recce units won't be able to hold them for long. Of course, the longer they hold them, the longer they will keep them in sight, and the longer we will be able to provide fire from the hill, from our armor. And again, the enemy is hunting for the victory points. Or victory locations, I should say. Right now they're in NATO control. They could also be disputed when the enemy claims them. Oh, we just got increased visibility again. It's clear now. The rain has stopped. We can see almost 6,000 meters or 6 kilometers, and we can see a lot more of the enemy's troops. And we can see here, I think these are their AA guys. So we need to get an arty strike on those, so our Harriers can do their job. And we can see on the red icon indicating where the enemy is actually moving toward. So, which directions they're heading for. Very nice, another T-80. Yeah, and those T-80s you definitely want to get out of the way soon, especially before they get the chance to actually fire all their anti-tank guided missiles, because those are the ones that really do the damage. You can see a lot of red lines there, and that's all us taking fire from the enemy. We can see our morale dropping on the right, we can see our readiness dropping, and that means that our return fire is also less effective, so the chance that we actually deal damage to the enemy is decreasing rapidly. It's one of the things reasons why this game is so good at displaying Modern Warfare. It's also like, if you can see something, it means you can probably kill it, and that makes battles very fast, very fluid. And that means you really have to try and plan ahead with your command and control. That's definitely what I'm going to try and do. Yes, I'm going to try and take my RT and do that. Yeah, one of my challengers has a shot at them, but they're quite far ahead. They haven't actually managed to get a hit in. Ouch, more artillery. As long as the weather remains fair, we should have a continued visual on them. But we can see we're definitely losing the town. So aside from playing until the time actually ends, there's like a sort of sudden death, if you will. That is, if over 70% of one of the forces, either you or the enemy, is defeated, the game will end, and the victory points will get distributed based on the local presence of troops in the area. Yeah, the visibility overlay is very important in game. It's definitely true. I'll show it off in a second. It allows you to see how visible certain hexes are from your troops. And we got some fresh reinforcements in here, and we really need some of those, so they're very welcome indeed. And we can order them in about 6 minutes. So a good number of challenges popping up. More fire is being exchanged. And unfortunately our artillery lost... they didn't have enough mine-lead ammo to actually drop the exit of the bridge. So it seems that the enemy anti-air have stumped down. We have some, I think these are Tunguskas as well. Though they're not nearly as dangerous generally as the others. Also, the plus sign on the counter indicating that it's a mixed unit. So in this counter, there are actually more than one unit type, and the dominant one is being shown in the silhouette. Oh, really? If that's true, Simpac, then I definitely have to change my priority what to attack. Let's see, have a look at them as soon as we start turn again. More artillery being fired. And our challengers have taken so much fire from the enemy already, they must be stressed out completely. Ouch, and another ATGM hit, taking out another challenger. So generally speaking, the British side, which we're playing at the moment, are probably the harder ones to get an understanding of. They require the most care with their challengers, which are very valuable tanks and hard to manage properly. But if you do so, they're very rewarding to use. To those starting out, we probably wouldn't advise starting with the plane with the British. Ouch, and 2 challenges down by ATGMs. That's very bad. Also note that even during simulation we can actually pause the simulation and walk away and have a drink, etc. So let's have a look here. If we get into the subunit inspector and have a look at Warsaw Pact units. So we got the TUs, we got their infantry. So here we have the Tunguska self-propelled flag. Yep, 9,000 meter air defense range. They got air search radar. They're pretty good. They're pretty dangerous. These guys have the 5,000 meter range here with the SA Gopher. Right, so these are the most dangerous air defense platform in game, according to Captain Darwin, who is one of the lead developers here on the series. So let's trust his judgment. So those would be the ones we'd have to target. So let's select our artillery, which is ordered to counter battery at the moment. I don't think it did all too good a job actually. Let's give it barrage a neutralizing fire. And it's a bit tough. We know it's heading this way, so we probably want to target it over here. Let's shoot somewhere in front of it. Or you could have actually one targeted it. And sometimes we'll actually try and understand and follow the target it's aiming for. So hopefully we should be able to get some hits on it right now. Now over here we have the enemy very close and we need to take those out. Do we have more artillery actually available? What's our fire support at the moment? I was hoping to have a bit more. So they're out of minelet ammo, but they can still do some nice barrages on the enemy. Or perhaps we want to do some smoke screens actually. Let's cancel this. Barrage, let's deploy some smoke and block some of the field of view for the troops over here. Our guys generally have some sensors that can see through smoke, so making use of that, hopefully we'll get the advantage over them. Yes, once we can take those out, it's definitely going to be Harrier time. Over here, sorry guys, I need you to help carry some load as well. How many orders do we have actually? I should have paid attention to that. 4 or 6, so I can only order 2 more troops this turn. And here you can see that the limited staff rule is definitely annoying because I want to send out my my armor as well. I want to move them, I think, to this hedge over here. I still have a good field of fire. Let's have a quick look at this line of sight tool, by the way. So it's can be activated with hitting Control L, and for the selected unit, you can see all the hexes it has line of sight of, and how much they do. So it's a great way to find out the best positions to be in. So we can see that all our troops here have good line of sight of the approach, and that's where we're doing the most damage. But in the town itself, we're not doing too much damage. It's tough. Obviously, houses provide a very large amount of cover, so hitting things there is always difficult. Let's go there as well. And screen. Just retreat if it gets unsafe. They can do that. So having done that, let's hit start. Because we've given the maximum amount of orders we can give. Taking out more of the enemy. More of our recce's are getting taken out, and they're more there to delay the enemy than anything else. They're very much sacrificial units, even though they won't like it. Another T-80U taken down, and every time we kill a T-80 it also means extra victory points for us, so that's something to take into account as well. And especially the T-80UMs with the missiles provide over 100 victory points. Nice. One of the things this game does very well is give you great satisfaction if you position your troops well. You got the enemy in some kind of killing field. Unfortunately, this is not really what I've got going on this particular scenario, but it's definitely something that is extremely interesting. Another thing you probably see down here in the tech job centers, you'll see that some subunits have been destroyed, others have like a repair icon with them. That means that because in the campaign you actually take your core force over from mission to mission, it's very much a difference whether a unit is completely destroyed or just requires some repairs in order to get back in the action for the next mission. And we don't hit the Tunguskas, we hit some of the BTRs, taking out 2 of them. It's nice, but it's not what we wanted to. What's this? Please ignore the guy here sharing the link. This is a spam. Let's ban him. So one of the things that happens a lot on the forums, and that's going on in the chat here right now, is discussions on what type of weapons used and type of combinations of troops, etc. The devs are doing a very great job at getting a believable and as historical as possible troop combinations in there, and they're doing a very good job at it. But of course, there's stuff they might miss, etc. And there is always room for improvement. So if you guys have anything you need to add, provide the proper sources, etc., and they'll be sure to look at it. And another challenger goes down, and we can see we've lost a good number of challengers in this area. We got some fresh challenges, some of them being brought up to the front, but for the rest we're taking a pounding. Yes, Ekblad, sometimes we have to use the banner hammer. I'm not really a fan of doing it, but of course, when people are only spamming links, they're obviously bots. And we hit the Tunguskas now, but only... darn. Not very successful. Meanwhile, their artillery's pounding away. One of the other things is that you can actually die yourself, or you can die in this game. You're the commander here on the field, and you're part of the main headquarters out there. So I'm down here, and when you get killed, actually command transfers from one location to another, which takes a significant delay. Good point, Zakblad. That warning should definitely be there. So we're doing another strike on the Tunguskas, hopefully a more successful one this time around. And that was very successful. We got knocked out 4 of them in one go. Oh yeah, the amount of units there is definitely huge. That was a very good job by RT. Very good. Exactly, we might be able to take those out as well. They seem to be stationary. Perhaps they'll start moving soon now that they saw their friends being wiped out. But in the meantime, we're definitely being pushed back. That's very true, Stempak. Good warning. Ouch! At such a range. Taking out 3 in one go. That is quite horrifying. One of the things, everyone, I hope will take away from this is that warfare is an extremely bloody affair. The amount of casualties we got here is huge in such a short time. We've only been past less than 2 hours of in-game time. Yeah, the smoke is very late. And we can see a little R in our unit over here that indicates it's resupplying. So it's out of supply, it needs to resupply, it needs to fetch supplies from its HQ. It can't actually fully resupply when outside of HQ range, so that's another reason to have your HQs close by. Timing is extremely important in this game, and synchronizing proper movements properly will greatly help you. So turn resolution is now over. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to do another full turn resolution in here, so what I'd like to do is just have a quick overview of the battlefield, where we are right now, before I say goodbye to you all. It probably would have been better to conduct a forward defense. That might very well be the case. Having your troops in town gives them great cover. Again, they'll be closing in very can close in fairly quickly then, but of course the bridge would have been very well visible, and taking out units from there would have been possible. So that's definitely a way to approach this scenario. Another one to approach it would be to have your armor deploying on the north and actually use these open plains as a killing ground, hitting them in the flank while they approach the town. So there are definitely a good number of ways to go about it. Unfortunately, and fortunately, of course, it works both ways, but the AI adjusts to your strategies. The AI is not scripted per mission, so they adjust to your strategies. So whatever you're doing, they'll find their own way to counter it. So what I'd like to show you just before I have to go is to hit view here. We can actually have a good number of options here to change the viewing. But what I wanted to do is to clear map of units, and that gives us a view of where the casualties have been inflicted. So if we zoom in a bit over here, we can see that on the bridge approach, where we thought we would be engaging most of the enemies, we definitely did so. So that went well, that part. But here we suffered more casualties than I would have liked, and part of it was that actually groups of our units were on the north part of the hill, which has less cover because of the road going through it. So doing it stationary on there might have not been the best way to go. We can see that we still hold one of the 3 victory points, but effectively they're all in enemy control because we don't have any units near this area. So yes, this was just part of one of the many scenarios that the Flashpoint campaigns Germany Reforged has to offer. Again, many of the scenarios that are there have been there in Flashpoint Germany, and they're now reworked with the new engine, and it's a great way to experience them once again, or for the first time, actually, as I'm experiencing them. So you can see the scenario could still go on for another 8 in-game hours, so we only scratched the surface of it. But it's definitely a very enjoyable scenario with action coming in very quickly. And already here we saw a lot of different ways we can actually approach it. So that's something that you can try out for yourself, and also sharing them online, your strategies, is much appreciated. So the game is a expansion to that's coming very soon, an expansion for Flashpoint campaigns Red Storm, with a whole lot of content in there and some unique, huge maps that haven't been seen before. So be sure to check it out. I'd like to thank you all for watching and participating in the chat. It was very much appreciated. I'd like to thank Captain Darwin or Jim Snyder as well, who for his wisdom and his great answers to the questions posed by the community here. And I hope we'll see you again next week when we play a new game. And stay tuned for more information on Flashpoint campaigns Germany Reforged. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.